Hello everybody and welcome to the RPL season preview. We have up in front of us Season 11 Tier 2 and Season 10 F1 Tier 1 ready to go with us. Obviously earlier this week it was, as of recording this, doing this prior to releasing on the YouTube quite a bit. So this will be a few days beforehand, so things may change, but I doubt it, as I've got the final schedule before it gets released. As well as the driver lineups, so only one or two things may change from the driver lineups, but as announced earlier this week, as I was going to say, F2 no longer going to be a thing, shutting down sadly as of this current moment after the season is over, so you won't hear anything F2 wise, that is why. Either way, I'm commentator Ryan Searles, alongside me is Ironwolf. Good to have you here with me once again.
Absolutely, it's good to be here. So we got upcoming season on hand and a unique field of drivers in both Tier 1 and with Tier 2. I'm actually very excited for this. You say you
Absolutely.
have the schedules on deck. I'm ready to see what is active for the tracks for the drivers this year.
Alrighty, let's get underway with this. Rundown for the RPL Season 11 Tier 2 schedule. Let's give you some statistics with it while we run down this. Round number 1 of the season, Brazil. We're doing Brazil back-to-back for RPL. It was ran in Tier 2 as the finale for Season 10. Third consecutive season with it on the calendar. Never a season opener for Tier 2, but was ran as a season opener for F2. How about that? Next, round number 2. Texas returns to the calendar after being off the calendar for a season, and obviously the first U.S. Tier 2 race since Vegas a season prior, since there was no U.S. races on the calendar during Season 10. Canada. This venue is back on the calendar after a season without it. Ran in Season 9. Same thing said for Japan the round after, round number 4. With Singapore, round number 5, second straight season with this track on the calendar. It was a very good race, in fact, during Season 10. We'll see if that happens the same way once again. Qatar, third successive season with the circuit raced at. It was introduced in the F1 game at the very start of the cycle, so it's been ran every time we've had a chance to do so. Saudi Arabia, this is where things get interesting. Round number 7 returns to the calendar. First time back since Season 8. And in fact, it's crazy to think about how it was back then, because I remember Tier 2 returning driver, which we'll get to in a little bit. Blue Goggy got a podium there. Was very nice to see. It's only Tier 2 podium. We'll see if he can reclaim that this time. He's in a full-time seat, so we'll see. We'll get more to the drivers later. I'll keep going on the calendar since we have a little bit more to go. Silverstone, second season in a row, round 8. Same thing with Austria, round 9. Now here's where things get interesting. We have a ton of Dutch drivers in RPL. Finally, this track is back on the calendar. We're going to Zandvoort for round 10. Has not been raced since Season 2. And then we get the final 3 rounds. It's an extended Tier 2 calendar, so you'll hear what happens for Tier 1 with that being said later on. Imola was not on the calendar last season, was on the calendar prior in the first season of F123, Season 9. Similar to other tracks with that being said. Portimao. This makes a comeback for the first time since Season 8, and it's the 4th different circuit in the last 5 seasons to host the penultimate round and the final round. This is going to get so interesting. I'm going to say, without a doubt, could be a very good race based on what we saw at F1 Tier 1 recently. Las Vegas, restored on the calendar for the second time ever, first since Season 9. First time as last round of the season, and it's the 4th straight season with a U.S. regionated track as the finale. And what you're asking probably, what do you mean by regionated track? Well, take a look at the U.S. side of the calendar. Miami, Texas, Brazil, Canada, and now Vegas. Races on that side of the region. This one going to be a finale for Season 11 Tier 2. My God, what a calendar we got.
It definitely is quite the calendar. Brazil going back to back. I mean, like I said, as the season finale of Season 10, that's pretty interesting. And for it to be the season opener, that will be pretty dang cool as well. Qatar being round 6, that track has become increasingly popular by the RPL drivers, so it's good to see that on the calendar again. Let's see. Silverstone always brings fantastic racing in Tier 2 and in Tier 1. You never know what to expect, especially also with Austria as well. Zandvoort back after a long hiatus. It's good to see that track back again. Imola, interesting track. I do like that track. Some of the drivers actually like it as well. And what's very interesting is Vegas being the finale. That is quite a surprise, and truth be told, Vegas being the finale, and as you mentioned, 4th straight season as a regionated track as the finale. Um, yeah, definitely 4th straight season where the finale race was in the Americas continent.
Absolutely. I must say about that calendar, it's right to have Netherlands on the calendar. It originally would have been Spa in place of that, and that's interesting enough. With that being said, Owen and I spoke about that, and we were like, well, Spa's not really been that popular for Tier 2. We have tons of Dutch drivers in RPL. They deserve their home race back on the calendar for this tier, since this tier, I would say, is just about the same amount of Dutch drivers as Tier 1. Why not? Glad to see that back. Same with Portimao. Saudi Arabia should be very interesting, in fact, because I mean more street circuits on the calendar this season, but also we get to see if the I guess the statistics from Tier 1 will change in some capacity. So many DNFs, so many retirements, so much issues from that race. Hopefully it's not a repeat. But let's get to the driver lineup now where things get interesting and things change. So some things have changed, in fact, here, which is the fact of the matter that we will talk about. I'll start from the bottom teams to the top teams because that is going to be the interesting part. Considering there's a chance we could have a sprint race on that format for next season, at least one maybe. Who knows? We'll see how things do go, if we do or not. With that said, uh, if there were to be a sprint race, it obviously would be from the reverse constructors order. So, with that said, we'll go through from the bottom of the constructors with the driver lineup. Make PK. Funny enough, I said a Dutch driver. Make PK is Dutch because we were talking about Dutch drivers. Is in Williams alongside Zatsi, the previous owner of RPL. Blue Goggy to AlphaTauri is going to be alongside Kipu for the season. At Haas, we have Len returning, and we have Mythic moving there. At Aston Martin, we have a very interesting lineup indeed, with Valkyrie and RSF1 Invade, two very proving drivers, I would say, in RPL at some point or another. HSR Gecko and JNT at Alfa Romeo. Grandpa and Tadpole at McLaren. Hunted and Instincts at Alpine. Owen at Mercedes, and Beatnik recently signed a Tier 1 contract, so he is not the driver of Mercedes. With that said, that whole contract thing with himself is something that obviously he can't make Tier 2 anymore. Originally it was the other way around. He could make Tier 2 only, but with that being said, there are certain drivers being considered for that Mercedes seat. Beatnik has said to me, Wavy is one of those drivers. Valkyrie is one of those drivers. In fact, there's even a driver outside of the academy that is someone being considered for that Mercedes seat alongside Owen. There were two other names, and I'm just going to pull this up very quickly. I will get the two names after we get through with Ferrari and Red Bull, because we got to get time going. With that being said, JTK and Bonkers at Red Bull, and alongside, or not alongside, below that, at Ferrari, Alex Baer and Stenner dropping down from Tier 1 to Tier 2 at Ferrari, so that shall be interesting indeed. The drivers that Beatnik mentioned, because we could see an announcement on this soon, is Wavy, Valk, Invade, Shanghai. Shanghai now is just signed as a reserve, so that's not going to be him. And an undisclosed driver outside of the academy is up for that Mercedes seat, since Beatnik has had that happen, where he can only make Tier 1. With that said, notable drivers without a seat, or at least a full-time seat as of this moment: Wavy, Leon, Jaxta, Lando, Trat Racer, and FBL. Whether that's from choice or not, there you go. What a driver lineup we have on our hands. Who would you say is the best driver pairing from that lineup?
Well, I'd say probably looking at everybody here. I would say I would say the best lineup that I'm seeing here is got to go to the Ferrari pair between Stenner and Alex. Alex, over the last few weeks, I've been seeing on the streams in Tier 2, he has shown quite a strong showing in Ferrari, and I see him potentially being a strong contender for the Season 11 championship. Stenner is also a driver that can do that as well. Stenner does have a Tier 1 victory to his name, and he's won a few times in Tier 2 as well. I would say a very close second. Um, Man, I would have to say close second, and I would have to say it's a toss-up between either the Red Bull pair of Bonkers and JTK and the McLaren pair of Tadpole and Grandpa. Now, it's interesting. I don't know who is going to be partnering Owen, but I would say individual drivers. I would not count Owen out because Owen is the most successful tier 2 driver in RPL, and he'll probably add more to that legacy in Mercedes.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Ferrari is the best driver pairing. With that said, who comes second to me, or at least close to them? I'd say, like you said, McLaren. I even think Alpine's a good shout. Mercedes could once they figure something out, even Red Bull. I think the top 5 teams haven't figured it out. We'll see if anyone else below that can figure it out. Speaking of that, let's talk about the weakest driver pairing. We spoke about the best. Now we're about to speak about the weakest. I'll go first this time. I think it's Williams or AlphaTauri, and I really think I'm going to go Williams here because the simple fact of the matter is they are not bad drivers at all. They are not the fastest drivers, but with Williams, you need drivers who are going to outperform the car. I don't think they're going to outperform the car enough to where you will see anything severely surprising, so I'm going to go with Williams.
I I believe you do have raised a couple of good points, but I am going to respectfully disagree. I'm going to say that the weakest driver pair is the Alpha Tauris. Now, uh, Make or Mac, I know I butchered his name because he's Dutch. He has Dutch names can be a little confusing sometimes. He mentioned last season with the AlphaTauri. The AlphaTauri is very tricky to control, and in some instances, it's actually undrivable on occasion. Coupled to the fact you have Blue Gagi, who is a bit notorious for getting involved in a lot of incidents, and Kipu, who's had a couple of hit and miss races. I mean, those two together in a car that's completely unpredictable, I would say that's going to weigh them down. And I think, in my respectful opinion, I believe that Alpha Tauri is the weakest pair.
All right, that's fair. Time to get to the simple prediction for the season. We don't have to go bold with this first one, but we just have to go simple with it. I'm going to say with this first simple prediction, I'm going to go with the fact that Owen and Mercedes return to the top step of the podium. They had one win in Season 9, Mercedes did, that came with Beatnik, and that was so far, as of us recording this, that is so far their only win on this game cycle in Tier 2. I think Owen gets that team to return to winning ways. Is it constantly, though? I don't know yet. But I'm at least saying Owen gets Mercedes a win on the season. Simple prediction.
I'm going to combine, I'm going to do my simple and bold prediction at the exact
All
same
right.
time.
I like this.
I'm going to go with this. I think Ferrari, they're going to nail both. Actually, also, I'm going to include the championship parts too. I think both of them, they're going to get the championships. They're going to get drivers and constructors. But I'll come back to the driver part as we get to it later on.
Interesting. I like that. I'll go with a bold prediction now because you're saying yours. With that being said, I'm gonna say bold prediction of the season for me. I'm gonna say Lennon in that Haas because he's been performing extremely well. I mean, a lot can change, but I think Lennon gets more than one podium in that Haas. We saw P4 at Qatar. Yes, there was a limited grid on hand, and yes, he took advantage through some chaos with that being said, but Lennon's a fast driver. And, I know we saw a different driver get close to a podium in a Haas, but he was not legitimate, though, in a different tier. And with that being said for Lennon, I think Lennon is legit. I think with what Lennon has done, Lennon has outpaced that car. Won in a Ferrari, didn't win by a mile. He won by a couple seconds. So, assuming he's in Haas for the whole season, and the races he does in Haas, he gets more than one podium with Haas, unless he gets promoted. So, more than one podium with Haas. Simple, but bold. That's what I say.
Perfect.
So, you gave your bold, right? You gave your bold already, you said?
Yep.
So, let's go surprise of the season. This can be good, this can be bad, and this doesn't even have to be bold, but I'm going to say surprise of the season. I personally, from just looking at this lineup right now, I personally think Hunted just is the surprise this season in Alpine. And Hunted's not a driver that's going to surprise many people. He's already up there anyway, so that's quite obvious. However, with Hunted, with his ability, I think he's going to drag that Alpine to places it may not belong. We saw podiums from different drivers in season 9, in different drivers getting a podium in that car. I think Hunted's going to be the surprise of the season, simply, outperforming that car. Doesn't mean he gets the result or not, I don't know. But he's going to be the guy that is going to be that surprise, just because he's in an Alpine. You can't really simply say anyone in the top 3 being a super big surprise, but I say Hunted just because the car he's in.
I got a two-parter for the surprises. I think Hunted will probably see himself in the podium, maybe possibly a win in an Alpine. But the other, I think Valkyrie will possibly defy the odds, whether it be in an Aston or maybe have to fill in a Mercedes. I think Valkyrie will score a win this season.
I like that. I like that bold prediction, I must say. I really do. Disappointment of the season. Well, let me go to this then. Disappointment. Who's going to be the disappointment? Well, I have to go unfortunate, and I have to go. I hate to say it. I'm going to say Zatsy in the Williams and Gagi both. This is a two-parter like yours. Just don't perform to expectations in their cars. AlphaTauri and Williams. I don't see that happening. They're not going to surprise anybody in their races. Maybe something changes, hopefully. I would like to see them prove me wrong. I'm using this as motivation for themselves to prove me wrong, but as for them, I need you guys to prove me wrong, because I don't think you're going to do many special things this season. Like AlphaTauri this season, only 1 points finish during season 10 so far. Obviously, a lot can change at the championship finale in Brazil, but I don't see many things happening from those two drivers specifically, and I'm sorry to say it.
Well, for my disappointments, and I'm gonna agree with Blue Gagi. I think I'm gonna be honest. I don't think that Blue Gagi may get a points finish. He's gonna find himself out of the points and in trouble quite a bit with penalties. But another driver that I think might be a slight disappointment would be Gecko. Gecko in the Alfa Romeo. He moved from Alpine into the Alfa Romeo, and in a sense, I think in some cases, Alfa Romeo is slightly worse than Alpine, but Gecko going with a change of scenery, maybe he'll prove me wrong and do pretty good in the Alfa Romeo.
Alright, we'll have to hurry it up a little bit, but with that being said, we have a Drivers' Champion and a Constructors' Champion to predict. I'm going to go Drivers' Champion in this one. It's really between Bonkers or Stenner. If I had to choose between the two drivers, I think in terms of consistency and completing races better, I think it's going to be Bonkers. If I were to go with a constructors champion, though, I think it's different than the drivers championship. I think it's Ferrari. I think I didn't include Alex Baer in that with contending for the championship, but I think he would be right there. I think it's fair to say. So constructors champion Ferrari for me, drivers champion goes to Red Bull, and it goes to Bonkers because he's going to be consistent and get the finishes that he needs.
Well, I said a little bit ago that Ferrari is going to be the constructors champion, and I also said that they're going to get the drivers champion. And I'm actually going to go with a bit of an insane idea. I'm actually going to go with Alex to be the drivers champion. I think Alex will have the capabilities to pull off one of the craziest upsets of the season. His first season in Ferrari, resulting in him getting a drivers championship.
Very impressive. I like that. I like that idea with that. I like it.